Anti-Afro Svengalis. I'm going to make this video as short as I possibly can because there's no reason to go all out. And although I know there are those out there who try to pretend that they don't get it, for those drunk up in the nosebleed seats of the stadium, this message, or any message I've ever posted, was ever intended to apply to somebody simply exercising non-abusive, non-harassing free speech. People have opinions about others, about situations. That is not the issue. I am addressing conduct that goes so far beyond just someone giving an opinion, or giving an opinion that includes what? Swearing and cursing and saying things about people that they don't like. That is not what I'm talking about. And we know that there are subjects out there who try to lay this guilt trip on others when they bring up actionable conduct, whether it's occurring on or off YouTube. So let me say this. If a subject has to post live stream coming up, and I'm going to delete this because basically they're anticipating complaints to YouTube, that's a confession. That's a confession that supplements other far over the line conduct. And we're on the receiving end. I'm on the receiving end. Rev G's on the receiving end, attacking Liz Martin. Essentially, any person that has any engagement with us that's not negative. You don't need to say supporters. It could be an innocent bystander making a comment. It's beyond just somebody giving an opinion. We have definitely seen a very sad state of affairs where there are subjects who cave like the paper mache tent because they can't handle pressure of someone or people not agreeing or supporting what they're doing. I've never been one to act based on whether someone else thinks I should do something. Whoever receives my complaints about whatever situation I'm dealing with, when someone has gone so far over the line, they would be the only ones I would be concerned about whether they think my claims have validity. Whether folks in and around the Umar Johnson sector believe what I say, agree with me, accept it, that has no relevance because I don't depend on other people to tell me whether or not I should be doing something. I always welcome feedback and guidance from those that I have relationships with. But in the end, it's going to be what I decide to do. Same thing with anyone else experience this situation. I think it's your miscalculation, and this is to the aggressors, just because you don't perceive someone as being willing and ready to defend themselves. You just can't dictate the terms by which somebody else is going to carry out that task. If people want to sit around and be on panels and chats with people who threaten to kill them, they can do that. If those people decide to do it, that's their choice, but they can't impose that on everybody else. So if Rev G decides he wants to file YouTube complaints against people using his content to harass him, you can't tell him with any sort of credibility that doing that, you're crying, you're whining. Well, yeah, you can actually say it, like the words can come out of your mouth, but you have no leg to stand on, especially if you're turning around and pitching a fit because you're on the receiving end of a copyright complaint or a privacy complaint. Does that make any sense? That's okay. It doesn't have to make sense. The bottom line is the person who's on the receiving end of the behavior gets to maintain control over how they address the issue. That is something that these aggressors try to strip from us by using these guilt trip tactics. You're dealing with the wrong people and expecting us to sit back and do nothing. Different degrees of reaction or non-reaction or whatever type of strategy, yes, but to do nothing, when your rights are violated, that's an unreasonable expectation that is placed upon us, and we're not going to fulfill that expectation. Now, you can't determine the timeline. We're going to act. What kind of sense does it make when we're out there helping people access their rights and we're going to do what? Sit back and let people walk all over us? And you don't need to be a community advocate to defend yourself. I don't want to insult anyone out there. There are people who were brought up knowing how to defend themselves. It doesn't matter your background. You could have learned that from anybody. You could have been brought up in the worst possible home life. Doesn't mean that you cannot learn how to defend yourself and not place yourself at risk in the process. And this is something that these subjects have an incredible time coping with. They want us to go along with what they're doing so they can put us in a vice so we'd have really no option. We would just cancel each other out. No, we're not canceling each other out. We're going to focus on getting our rights appropriately addressed through the sanctioned legitimate channel. We're starting here when we're talking about YouTube guidelines. There's nothing in YouTube guidelines that says anyone has to accept what someone else says about them as trolling or joking. If the person on the receiving end perceives the conduct to be harassing, they have a right to file a complaint with YouTube. And again, if somebody's coming on already anticipating there's going to be complaints filed, that's intentional. I don't joke with enemies. Enemies are not in the position to joke with me and to consider it's just YouTube. If I consider the conduct harassing, if I consider the conduct bullying, you're damn right I'm going to report it. And I'm not going to stop at YouTube. We received this live stream. I don't follow this person, so I never would have received it. I would not have known the person was live. But they sent this live stream, not the person, someone else sent it to us and gave us a couple of timestamps. And I thought it was very interesting. The subject that's going around here, leveling these false accusations and claiming that we've had conversations behind the scenes and we're pulling complaints from YouTube as far as copyright because he's leveraging something, whatever he says he has some pull with YouTube. There was a live stream of all women, and the women were talking about this person and their experiences with how this person and their perception was abusive and harassing towards them. And what happens? Remember, this is an all-woman panel. This person, what do you know, shows up and wants to catch the link. So the host decides to let the person up on the panel. The person didn't hack into the live stream. The person was let up and proceeds to have issues with the women who talked about their experiences with him and had a very difficult time accepting they consider that conduct abusive and harassing. And one of the women stated, so you're trying to tell me how I get to characterize, I'm just paraphrasing, your treatment of me? The person went on and gave examples. The person actually went through it step by step, how she perceived this person to be harassing her and getting other people or encouraging other people who agreed to gang up on her in chats. And the person who loves to call himself a troll and pass everything off as trolling got extremely upset. And the person kept pressing for more examples. It wasn't satisfied with the person's explanation as to why she felt the way she did. And then the person went on and said, I took someone's suggestion and reached out to you behind the scenes to get you to stop. And what did this so-called troll do? This is the name the person loves to call himself when he's harassing other people. The person took the behind the scenes message and harassed the person with the message on the community wall. You want to consider that trolling? You can if you want to. But this person very clearly felt they were being harassed. And blocking the person didn't seem to help either. See, that's what I'm trying to say. When you put all the things that you need to do in place, you're in the clear. You block a person and they come on and they make up new names and they come and start harassing you again. These are the things that YouTube needs to be looking into. And if any of those subjects out there who claim that AFW and Rev G and whoever else they're saying is making up all these names, file a complaint. See, that's what tells you that they're full of it. They wouldn't dare access any legitimate entity to investigate what's going on because it's going to lead right back to them. Why in the world would a bank robber walk into the FBI office and say, I'm turning myself in? Oh, I'm sure there may have been, few and far between. Just go ahead and confess what you're doing. That's what's happening by saying anticipated complaints to YouTube. It's not uncommon to hear people saying things like, I don't agree with people calling jobs. I don't agree with so and so trying to get this person fired. Well, first off, nobody's asking for anybody to agree with anything. Number two, as I stated a minute ago, whoever's on the receiving end of the conduct gets to decide how they're going to handle it. But this is the most important part. Number three, none of these individuals who are registering complaints about jobs being called, as far as somebody getting fired, that's up to the person who's engaging in the conduct. The person engaging in the conduct is the one that's got to face the situation. So yes, you can go rob a bank, but the person got arrested because somebody called the police. They shouldn't have robbed the bank. I'm being facetious, but you get my point. Those who have such an objection to employers being called, to licensing boards being contacted, or even law enforcement, none of these individuals have come up with any alternatives. What are your alternatives? What would happen aside from exercising one's rights when faced with bullying and harassment on YouTube, whether you're contacting YouTube to address it, whether you're contacting law enforcement? What is the alternative or alternatives? There are none. See, this is how this works. If somebody is engaging in conduct that's impacting you, you get to determine how you're going to manage that. You can't rely on the subject engaging in the conduct to independently stop the conduct. If that was the case, there would be no need for an intervening entity like YouTube or law enforcement or getting hold of an employer. You don't put your life in the hands of your attacker or your abuser or your harasser. You don't put your peace of mind in the hands of anyone perpetrating atrocities upon you. You need to access any and all resources to address the issue because this is the subject's original intent, is to make people hopefully feel uncomfortable, just as the harasser feels uncomfortable and angry and blaming everybody for all of the issues that the harasser and abuser created him or herself. This is not a beef. This is not a going back and forth. I'm not going to be up here reacting to what the subject is saying because it's already a done deal in terms of what the subject has done. That subject is the one that has to come up with all these lies to cover up more lies, to make it appear the situation is something that it isn't. Well, there is a trier of fact, whether you're going to address it on YouTube or outside of YouTube. But this much is certain. The harassers, the abusers, the demons, the stalkers, however you want to describe them, they will not be making decisions for their targets when it comes to how these situations will be handled. You know I have more coming your way. In the meantime, buyer beware.